Hey guys, so in this video I thought I was going to share with you a small tip about picking the correct tool for the job. Now let's get into it. For this to make any type of sense, I'm going to have to take you back as far back as, well, virtually yesterday actually. So currently I'm in charge, or rather I am part of a duo of two developers who are in charge of choosing a solution to support localization for a part of our system, or rather investigate the possibility and the work effort required in order to support languages of from different countries. And for any of those of you out there who have been doing this, you can probably you probably know how difficult this is and how major an impact this actually has on the system as a whole. Because, and for the juniors out there, you may not know this, but going from your native, like let's say that you have English as your native language or the only language supported for your platform, going from that one implementation over to supporting multiple languages is by far one of the most biggest decisions you can make as part of an IT company. Virtually, it will affect absolutely everything in your application. It will change the way that you have to work with the system as a whole. So this is not a trivial thing to do. Now, currently we were investigating different tools, and we looked through the solution that was in place for a small part of the system as is today. And basically we were using, I think the library is Yahoo solution called Intel ITNL React, or React ITNL. And it's a pretty straightforward client-side solution. And you may ask the seniors out there, you're asking, okay, Frederick, well, you know, right, that, you know, having client-side translation systems is really, really bad. What happens, you know, you should know this, right? And I'm just gonna put up my hands and I'm gonna say, I know, guys, I know that it's not that great to have the translations happening on the client side. And for the juniors out there, if you're interested to know why that is, I will gladly make a separate video to talk about why that is so bad. But that's the way it works, and unfortunately that's the only feasible thing we can do with the time given to us. A more holistic solution would take too long, basically. So we have this package or library that does virtually what we need it to do. It handles the translation, it handles formatting of dates, it handles formatting of numbers. And so we decided that this is good enough for our intents and purposes, and announced this to the company. The CTO, one of our managers, or rather our CTO, then poses a counter question. All right, have you looked into this other framework, or rather this other tool, just to make sure that you're being objective and you're checking out all the options? We had a look at it, and apart from supporting all of the things that we actually need from the current solution, it also supports multiple things, such as you have supports for all kinds of integrations to different languages on the server. You can run it as a separate service with its own database that handles all of the data, basically all of the translations as a separate service. You could have it in a Docker container and run it separately in essence. And it had support for Grunt, Gulp, like all kinds of build suites. And so we talked, and we kind of talked over, and my colleague said, oh, this looks like a really nice solution. It even has its own administrative, for the enterprise edition, you can actually have your own admin panel and kind of get some metrics and all kinds of other cool, useful stuff. And I said, yeah, it's really cool, but I think it's a really shitty choice for us. And my colleague went like, why? It can do everything that we want, and it does even more. Yeah, that's the problem. And he went, what do you mean? Well, the problem is that we really only need these three core features, like this small portion of the features that this tool is giving us. And if we go with this more holistic solution, we are getting a bunch of stuff that we don't need right now, at least. And even worse, we get stuff that is not even for our platform. Like, we are not using more than half of, like, the tool was selling it in as this holistic solution that you can use for any platform, for any stack you're running. And I kind of went, okay, but I'm running this stack. I don't want all that other bullshit, and I don't want to have to deal with possible issues that can come from supporting all of these different platforms. And so we came to this discussion about what is it that you look for in a good tool. And I think that the best way to explain this is the same way I try to explain my views on software development as a whole. In school, I used to believe that the bigger the better. And as I grew older, I realized that was the dumbest, it was a really stupid thing. It was really, really dumb. It's actually much more, well, I'm going to make a semi-quote here and reference something that Douglas Crawford said in one of his very nice tech talks, where he stated that, through another quote of course, that perfection is achieved when there's no longer anything else to take away. And what he means by that is, at least my perspective, is that the smaller you can make something and the more exact it can be when it comes to catering to your specific needs, the better. Because you may think that this much more advanced tool with all of these awesome other features and tools is the better option because it has so many features and so many possibilities. But that's actually a bad thing, because remember, if you only need a small portion of all of that, you still get everything else on top of that, and you have no need of it. And that's actually very, very bad. It's going to put you in a situation where the tool that you're using is more complex, it's larger, and you might have all kinds of issues that happens, not because you changed anything, but because the project needs to take all kinds of decisions that are not catering to your use case, it's catering to everybody's use case. And that's actually really, it's not that great. It's really not, because the best thing for you is if you get in a perfect world, you just want a tool that does exactly the thing that you want to be able to do, right? So getting all that extra fluff, it might be useful in the future, but that's a big maybe. If you don't have any idea what direction you're going into the future, odds are that you're adding all of this overhead and all this extra stuff to your project when you don't really need it. So just because something is more elaborate and has more bells and whistles doesn't necessarily mean that it's a better fit for your problem. And that's why I argue, and this is going out to you juniors out there, this is why I keep telling you in a lot of different videos that you need to stop thinking about the tool. Don't get like blindsided by the tool and how fancy it is. You need to consider the problem you are solving. Think about it this way. If you wanted to remove an anthill from your backyard, you wouldn't come in carrying a nuclear bomb. It's the same type of idea. The problem, or rather the solution, needs to stand in proportion to the problem that you are solving. And that's why I keep telling people to really learn what it is that the tool is intended to solve, because it's very easy to get caught in this spiral of thinking, oh, this shiny fancy thing with all these awesome graphics and all this hype about it that is massive is so popular with everybody and it can do all these awesome things. And I keep telling you, say no to that, because a feature rich is actually bad if you don't use all of the features. The less features, the better, actually. As long as the features are catering to your need, the goal is not to have as many as possible. The goal is to have exactly the amount of features that you need. It is also feasible that you think about things, oh, maybe in the future I'll have a different use case. And I tell you right now, unless you can sit down, and that's what we did. We sat there and I asked my colleague, I know that all these fancy tools, this fancy tool can do all these other things as well. Do you think that within 1 year we're going to use more, let's say just 2 or 3 more of these features? And he thought about it and he looked at me and he said, no. And then I said, why? Then why? Why are you planning ahead why would you plan ahead a year, like more than a year, it doesn't make any sense, at least not to me. So this is my plea to you guys out there. When you're picking your tool, make sure that you understand what problem you are trying to solve, and never ever, if you can avoid it, go with a tool that gives you a big large amount, like a super large amount of features, when you really only need a small set of them. Then you should look for a tool that does that one thing you're trying to solve as well as possible. Hopefully this was useful to you. Have a great day.